As the clock strikes 7, the vibes alive. Inner circles here, where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come one, come all, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. In a circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. In a circle podcast where love is well known.
Good evening, everyone. Today it is Tuesday, March 25th, right? The month is already at the end. Um, Welcome to the Inner Circle podcast. Today we'll be talking about raising children in a culture different from your own. This is where we discuss different topics. There is a community show where we engage different things, right? Talks about different situations, different scenarios, different topics that affect our community. We are here to amplify immigrant voices, to elevate our voices and things like that. So tonight we're going to be discussing raising children in a culture different from your own. How does that, impact their upbringing? How does that affect them? How do you navigate that situation as a parent? So we have two great panelists here that's going to be joining us to discuss this topic. I'm your host, Abe Kamara, and I will go around and we'll introduce our guests, and then we'll do some few commercial information, and then we'll jump into things. Mel, you unmute, Mel.
Melvin Zia here. Good evening, everybody. What a great topic, man. Talking about kids, our next generation, and just this topic is interesting. I'm excited about it. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it.
Wayne,
Hi guys, Win here. I'm excited to talk about kids always and how the culture can impact or not impact them. So tune in, engage with us tonight. Let's have a chat.
thank you to our great panelists and folks. So audience, you can join the conversation by putting a comment in the chat. You can contribute by also calling our number tonight, 952-594-5154. Want to hear from you, right? If you're a parent, are you thinking about being a parent? How are you raising your children in this culture that's different from your home? Do you take them back home regularly? Are you teaching them different language? How are you navigating that? But Mel, I'll start with you, man. What does it mean to you to raise your kids in a different culture? That's different. It's totally different from your own. I'm assuming you have all your kids here in America, right?
Yes, I do. So, raising children in a culture different from one's own is rich, but yet come with a lot of challenges too that you kind of face. You kind of have to understand the cultural awareness and sensitivity that attach to the place you live at, like the U.S. of A. That is so diverse. You have different cultures that conglomerate in the U.S. of A. And one way or the other, your kids will encounter these diversities, right? How do you navigate it as a parent? Is just ensuring that your kids are practicing those things that will add value to them, right? And also not forgetting your own culture and your belief system, right? Your value and your belief system, those things that are also kind of add value to you as you continue to navigate your culture and navigating those in this diverse society we live in, right? Language development. So let's say if you born your
Yeah.
kids in Liberia. I know some people kind of born their kids outside of the US of A and immigrate
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Those ones, there are a lot of challenges when they come here, right? Those are the
Yeah.
main ones that face these challenges, mainly like integrating them into a different culture, like the US of A.
Yeah.
Language barrier is something to kind of deal with. So um,
Sure.
being able to, as a parent, and being involved, especially like I said, kids that were born outside of the US of A and coming here, being involved, because they would go out there and face stereotype. They will
Mm-hmm.
kind of struggle with something their friends don't understand, and it's not to laugh at them. So,
Okay.
at that early stage, as a parent, you want to ensure you are present. You want to
Mm.
ensure you understand what happening with them when they are outside of the home and when they come home. Just understanding that, because it's good to detect these things at an early stage. But for
Okay.
kids that are born here, it's easier for them to, migrate. The main thing parents can do is just, not forgetting your culture piece, right? Making sure they
Yeah.
understand where you're from and teaching them those values, those important things, right? I
Yeah.
think I think then that way you can navigate the challenges that I mentioned. But it's rich, my brother. They tend to
Okay.
understand different culture. They tend to interact with kids from different background,
Sure.
and
Sure.
that
Okay.
coming together kind of can add a lot of good things to them as well.
Yeah. When my understanding, you came here at a very young age. How was that experience like, for you, growing up in the United States and your relationship with your parents, right? Like, I mean, like Mel talk about, you came here at a young age, right? Your relationship with your parent and trying to navigate two different cultures. Did you pick up things from the African or the Liberian culture versus what you learned here?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I left Liberia so young. I don't even know fully too much of the culture or
Mm.
I lived in Cote d'Ivoire, so Ivory Coast. I spoke French and everything, and I've been to Guinea, and then I came here. But when I got here at a young, I think I started like third grade, and it was
Mm.
a culture shock. It really
Okay.
was, because for one, I spoke fluent French, right? I spoke
Okay.
French fluently, and I spoke English, but I also spoke French fluently, and nobody in my house spoke French.
Okay.
All of my cousins were born in the States. They're from New Jersey, so
Mm.
I was the first encounter to really have with like an African. I mean,
Yeah.
their mom came at a young age, my grandmother
Yeah.
came at a young age. So I
Yeah.
was like the first person they encountered that was like really from Africa and had the accent and spoke a different language than they ever heard,
Mm.
which was French. So it was a
Sure.
cultural shock for me. And even being in the schools, it was a cultural shock. Like the way teacher was talked to was a cultural shock. The way the eh, homework, just everything. It was like a whole new world I was in. Like I was in the
Mhm.
cultural shock, trying to adapt and understand my way around at school, at home, in a community with friends. It was just a world. It was just a cultural shock.
How did your parents then help you to build a sense of identity?
So my
Oh,
mom and dad they lived in Liberia. I brought my dad at a later age. So
oh,
my grandmother brought me here, blessed memory of her.
okay.
Um, she tried, told me about like the American culture and stuff like that. But I learned a lot from my cousins. I mean, they laughed at me half of the time, but
Mm,
then again, I learned from them like certain things to do, certain things to not do, certain ways to say things, certain ways to not say things.
mhm.
In our home, I felt like because nobody spoke French, I lost my French instantly, and that forever is like something I live with, and I really feel bad because I my dad invests a lot of that in our education. So it was in my home, they didn't really hold a lot of culture. I mean, we the Bassa people, our tribe, we ate our food and everything,
Yeah.
but there wasn't much there. Like my grandmother wasn't like there. She spoke Bassa, but not to me.
Mhm.
She would speak
Mhm.
English to me. I wish she did. So I didn't
Yeah.
really get much of it until I got older in my own journey and building this woman that I am. So I didn't really get a lot of it because again, my cousins, I mind you, born in the States. My aunt came here when she was 16. All her kids were born here. So she too don't even have like that level of thing. Her colloquy was really fancy. So it was
Okay.
just
Okay.
it was just weird.
Yeah. So folks, tonight, man, we are discussing raising children in a different culture, in a culture different from your own. We are immigrant. most of us have kids, or some of us came here at a very young age, right? Navigating two cultures, right? How are we blending that? How we managing that? This is your community show, Inner Cycle Podcast. You can follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, anyway, get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But Mel, you mentioned earlier about kids coming here young versus those that were born here. I mean, there are differences, right? Like maybe in trying to navigate it. I mean, the two worlds. How different?
Mhm.
How different is it though? To me, I think like both face the same challenges, right? Because they are parents, where they are born in a home where their parents are not born here, right?
Mhm.
And those kids who are coming here young, they are also facing the challenge, right? Their parents were not born here, and then also they were not born here, but they are navigating like two different cultures. But how you think are they different?
Yes, the difference with kids that are born here,
Mm-hmm.
aside from kids that were born, in Africa and migrated here
Mm-hmm.
at an early age, right? So the kids start their preschool, their elementary. They started here, and interacting with friends. Their communication style is more of Americanized. However, they spend time with their parents too. But mind you, peers, like their peers, that's the way their friends talk, that's how they're gonna talk. People they
Mm-hmm.
interact with, things they share, with that little basic learning they're doing together. Those are things, that's how they're gonna communicate. And most of the kids they will interact with are kids that are American, that already have the American culture, quote unquote. And I don't know where we have identified culture of America, but yes, I mean, speaking wise, like the way they handle things. So that would be different from a child who is on the age, let's say between the age of 5 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
coming here to the US of A. First of all, they will find it hard to socialize, right? That
Mm-hmm.
that's the challenge. Making friends is a challenge. The first thing is the person I'm not even understanding them. Those are struggles, right?
Mhm.
They're
Okay.
not understanding it the way the other kids communicate, and now they are withdrawn, right? They just remain. Most of them will remain with me just by themselves, and just
Okay.
socializing become a problem.
Okay.
So those are the difference they will have to navigate, and that's what I meant by kids that are born here. They will find it a little easier, than kids that migrate here between the age of 5 to 10,
Okay.
because those kids already have established one way or the other, established some type of way of communicating, way of socializing, right, in
Mm-hmm.
their place of origin prior to them migrating to the US of A. So
Okay.
changing that, environment for them, it will be a little challenging. But
Okay.
for kids between those ages, for them to adapt is easier than an adult, because they
Okay.
have that ability. It will be harder for you and myself, who have eaten our tobagi and went to high school over there, to just speak the way people talk here. Will be harder. We can just try to do that switching code, but will
Yeah.
not be as effective and efficient to communicate. So those are the challenges for kids that migrate here at a younger age, and kids that are here will not have to face a lot of those, because they are already, everything about them is here.
Okay. Wayne, though, let me stick to that now a little bit, right? Kids that are born here. Let's stick to the kids that are born here. Should
Mhm.
parents, should parents balance teaching them that cultural heritage versus making sure, right, they don't lose, maybe as Mel said, their American identity or their American culture? Should they also be taught maybe their African heritage or their Liberian heritage, Nigerian or Ghanaian heritage? Should that be something parents should emphasize?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, where your parent come from, your bloodline traced to that, right? That is still you at the end of the day. It's just this is where your nationality is from. I
Hmm.
think there has to be a balance. Like you said, the American culture, you install it in their heritage, the origin of their parents,
Hmm.
grandparents. They should know that as well. They two should go together. It's a partnership. I think
Well,
they
how,
should.
how should that happen though? How should parents do that?
I
Is it by
mean,
maybe
it will
Is it
help
by
if the
taking? Is it by? Let me preface it this way. Is it by taking the kids home, or is it by teaching them that maybe your local dialect, that you spoke back home? If you did, right, like Bassa, right? That assume like yeah, you speak back your your local dialect is Bassa. Should you teach your kids Bassa?
If I knew it, I would love to. Like,
Mm,
it's
mm,
sad when my grandmother was speaking of my late father when he migrated to the States.
mm,
And he would tell me, say he was speaking, and I'm like, oh daddy, no, I don't understand that thing. He's like, oh yeah, your grandmother never taught you. But you should teach your kids that language. You should, like, tell them about where you come from, where you grew up, in other part of, a part of Africa. I mean, be honest, be transparent with your kids.
mm,
Remember, we say this every day on this app, is that you are the first foundation of your kids. You are
mm,
the first teacher. So if you want them to know about Liberia, even the nitty gritty part of Liberia, you, the parent that is coming from there, that have the experience, which
mm,
is your best teacher, teach your kids that. And then eventually, when they're at appropriate age, take them back. Let them see. Oh, mom, you said red. I don't know, said brush tree was this. So that there it is. They're able to experience what you have educated you taught them in the home. So absolutely. I wish I learned Basa. I'm telling you every day, but
mm.
I don't know it. My mom know it. So hopefully when she comes, she'll teach me some. Who knows?
Mel, I know we're taking backstage here. Your three kids. Do you intend to teach them your local dialect?
I would love to. I would love to. I'm trying. They're learning little bit, little. But if here's what I do, right?
Yeah.
We have a community here, and
Mm-hmm.
we go to these gathering, the Liberian events. Even though
Mm.
we don't have like the how should I say, like you see back home when they have an event, you see like sometimes they'll practice where they're from, they'll perform some type of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
activity that
Mm-hmm.
resembles the kind of ethnic group they are from. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
that here, but we are Liberians, right? We talk the Liberians once we are in gathering. We do things like we do when we're back home. So what I tend to do is not to keep the kids away from these kind of events. Sometimes I take them on the soccer field, right? The Independence Day that coming here now, we do a lot of things on the soccer field. They hang out with me. We tend to go to these areas, so then they see how their daddy is amongst his people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is who I am. I'm not going to change that, and I want my
Mm-hmm.
kids to know that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's sad to say, in our community, especially I would say the Liberian community, we do a poor job on educating our kids, our place of
Absolutely.
origin,
Yep.
our dialects, and our culture, right? We
Mm-hmm.
tend to look at it as if you do it, then you are illiterate, which
Mm-hmm.
in fact isn't true, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can be as civilized, you can be the most civilized man, understand everything in the US of it. You have all of the doctorate degree, your place of origin, you should be proud of that, and you should be able to teach your kids
Always.
that.
Always.
It shows them belonging, it shows them their identity, it makes
Mm-hmm.
them to kind of look back and be like, yes, my parents are from this place, and this. At least they know something about you, so they don't lose that piece.
Sure,
Yes,
sure,
the
sure.
American culture piece, they're going that one way or the other. You don't have to teach them it; they will learn it. They interact with friends. They'll go to school. They'll do things outside of you and them. But we as parents, we should ensure that we teach our kids these things. I'll give you an example, my brother.
Yeah.
One or two times I tried to speak my dialect with people that I know, that myself from the same area, when we
Yeah.
are in gathering.
Yeah.
They are like they don't even know it, right? Because they feel like
It's
speaking their
okay.
dialect
Yeah.
makes them electric, which
Sure,
isn't
sure.
true. I'm gonna say, can
Okay.
speak English good. Come on, we're learning English here, but
Mm,
I'm trying to speak my dialect, and then
mm.
you dare like you want to speak English to me when you can actually speak it. And that's why
Yeah.
I look at other people from Africa, like the Kenyans. I'm proud of these people, the
Mhm.
Nigerians. They You just name it, the Somalian. They speak their dialects when they are talking to each other,
Yeah.
especially when it's something related to them, right? They'll
Yeah.
speak their dialect, you know,
Yeah.
and you should
Yeah.
be proud of where you're from. And this is why a lot of us, or a lot of our kids, are losing
Mhm.
their back, where they're from, right?
Okay. Okay.
Me here is an example. I'm not trying to set by example here. When we
Ah!
does not speak, she does not even speak her own dialect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this,
Sure.
she's not the only person. There are
Yeah.
people from Liberia, right?
I'm willing to learn,
Mm,
y'all.
People,
I'm willing
there
to
are
learn.
people from Liberia that migrated here, my brother, are very
mm.
adults. They can even speak their own dialect. It's sad,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we need to try to do a better job as parents, especially in the Liberian community, to
Can
teach
I
our kids
piggyback
where
off
we're
what
from.
Mel just said, a really quick?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like,
Go ahead. Go
like
ahead. Go
if
ahead.
you just take a look at, like, at the other cultures here, you have the Hispanic, Latinos, Somalis that Mel just referenced.
Yeah.
These people start teaching their kids from infancy. Like they will be speaking their language to them. By the time they're like 3, 4, they're
Mm-hmm.
fluent in
Mm-hmm.
Spanish. They're fluent in Somali or Swahili, whatever it is that they're speaking. Even at the center that I work at,
Mm-hmm.
these kids are on this spectrum, whether it's level 1 or level 3. But
Mm-hmm.
I kid you not, there are, even though they're on the spectrum, the Somali workers there, when they speak their language to them, they
Mm-hmm.
shift. Me, I speak English, they don't even move.
Okay.
To let you know, even at home, even though they're on the spectrum or there's a chemical imbalance going on with them, the
Mm-hmm.
X and Y chromosome, they're
Mm-hmm.
still installing these values from home. That okay, you may have this developmental delay, but you'll be learning hey, hi, come here, go in Somali language, so you can
Mm-hmm.
understand that.
Okay.
So we Africans would do a bad job for that. And another thing I think Liberian we do, like Mel was saying, we shy our kids away from that. Like those kind of gathering, Independence Day gathering, those kind of things. We feel, oh, I watch that American child. They can be in that setting. No, you're depriving them of culture that they should be learning and embracing. Like my
Mm-hmm.
cousins, now that they're older, my aunt did that for us. That was one thing she did and I didn't like. But when I got older, I realized like pros and cons of it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? But she deprived her kids from that. So in their mind, even though they were African, they felt like they were better and they were above, and they really
Okay.
wasn't.
Okay.
And then when they got to a certain place, it really hindered them because they
Okay.
couldn't connect with their fellow Africans no more. All they needed
Okay.
from their grandpa's tribe. That was it.
Okay. Okay. J Pastor here brought up a great point, right? It's like the people Wayne was just naming, those people, I mean, I don't know how to is it. I don't think
Liberians
it's
have a
true. I don't
dialect. We have a
wait.
tribe. Each tribe. Let
Yeah, I
me
don't even
get
think
to
that is
him.
true, right? Each of those countries that you name, I know, like they have Swahili, but it's also to Mel's point or to your point too, right? They also have like regional dialects and things like that. I'm
Of course.
sure they do speak it when they come here, right? They do teach their kids that at home, but the point he's trying to say here, right? Those people compared to Liberia, they have one national dialect or language that they can all speak. Versus Liberia, we have 16 tribes, right? But then, there's no like or in Ghana have different tribes, but there's three. Three is the national language.
Liberians are English though, Ab, with an
Well,
accent.
but English is the universal language, right? Where you're talking about teaching,
You can
you and I
still
look.
I still
Uh-huh.
doesn't think you're deprive you from teaching your kid the dialect in which you originated from. You
Okay,
can
so
still
your
do
point is
that.
it should be the diet that you specifically
As a
came from.
Liberian, teach your child a dialect like male reference. If you know
Hmm.
it really fluently, please teach your kids that.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, as Africans, we gotta be honest here. Yes, America. First of all, America don't even have its own culture. America's a
Hmm.
melting pot. We all have.
Hmm.
Mel stated that previously. As Liberians, what we do, we come and assimilate, and then try to watch where we come from. Only want to identify with specific parts. No, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. You can't identify with a specific part of your culture. It's either you all or you nothing. There's no in between, and that's really what it is. And our people we struggle with that. There's no in between. Either you this or you that. It's black and white.
Okay.
There's no gray area.
Okay. Mel, to the point where in like, that come like raising children, right, as a parent. Is there a point where in that there might be like a conflict in terms of that cultural clash, right? Hey man, they're born here, they're American, there are certain things. Maybe they might look at you, Dad, what's that? What are you doing? Or maybe you might be eating your, have there been situation where there has been a cultural clash between you and your kids based on the cultural experience or the differences? Or how do
The,
parents navigate such a situation anyways?
Yeah, so Ibi, that's a great question. That's a great question. So it boils down to you at the early age not doing those introductory piece of those things we talked about, right?
Hmm.
Um then yes, you will have cultural class where in the kids don't even know certain things, and one day out of a blue when somebody visit you, they see you doing
Hmm.
something or
Hmm.
speaking
Hmm.
some type of dialect, right? They
Yeah.
will be like, "Oh, what is that, mom or daddy? What are you guys doing, right?" But I'm just what we're saying here is, from a not everything. I'm not saying everything, but those key pieces that you
Hmm.
guys carry on a day-to-day basis, when regardless of how long you've been in the US of A, right? You want to make sure the kids know those things. You want to make sure they are aware. So then it's not more like they just focus on one piece of America. Pastor kind of brought a point which is valid.
Mhm.
However, yes, Liberia, we don't have an identified dialect that we speak nationally. English is
Mhm.
one. They
Mhm.
try introducing Pele to the University of Liberia,
Mhm.
but that kind of it will fail because at the end of the day, you're looking at doing it at a university level, not from a kindergarten level and going up to high school. So
Mhm.
it's not successful, right? But they tried that. But there are dialects in Liberia and in other countries you just named. We mentioned Swahili in Kenya, but there
Mhm.
are other tribes from Kenya, Kisi. These people still speak their Kisi, just part of
Yeah.
that national
Yeah.
language that
Right.
the dialect that identify as their national spoken dialect. There are
Mhm.
Kenyan people
Mhm.
I know that will speak Kisi and they'll speak other dialect. There
Yeah.
are Nigerian guys that will speak Yoruba and they'll speak other dialect. And these things are not their national identified
Yeah.
or dialect. Nigeria is more like Liberia. I don't think Nigeria have an
Yeah.
identified
Definitely. Yeah.
national language, but it still speak their dialect of where they're from. And these are things we're talking about. We're not
Mhm.
saying we should now sit here and say Liberia should have this dialect as national spoken dialect. English is, which we understand, but we all from somewhere, right? We all
Yeah.
from somewhere. We originated from a particular tribe, and that's what we're trying to refer to. But yes,
Yeah.
if all of these things boil down to you as a parent playing that role, make sure your kids understand, so then it's not shocking to them one day when they see it happening. So they are not just surprised, right? It's more like,
Yeah.
like you have to be able to start those things at an early age. Oh, babe, this is your baby or my daughter or my son. These are the kind of things we do from where I'm from. This is how our culture is. These are
Mhm.
our food. These are the kind of things we do. Our family line. We believe in
Sure.
extended family, cousin,
Yeah.
nephew. So you see them here. So you kind of little things, and that's how you try to incorporate them. That's how you try to teach them and make sure they understand where you're from. But if you don't do it and wait for them to grow to
Sure.
figure it out themselves, it
Yeah.
will be hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to piggyback on Pastor point, right? Is like East Africa have that Swahili, right? Most of the East African countries
Your
have
sorry
that,
is Swahili.
Swahili, right, as our national language. But most countries in Africa, do not. Like Mel said, Nigeria. Nigeria does not have a national language. Ghana does. They got three. Most of these French-speaking countries do not have national languages, right? Like Africa Coast and things like that. You learn French, the winner did. Guinea does not have a national language, right?
We speak
So,
French.
but even like Sierra Leone, right, does not have a national language. You got Mende and other tribes and folks, to your point, Mel, right? Some folks intentionally, they are intentional about teaching their kids,
Yeah.
right, at an early age, right? Speaking. Sometimes when I go into some parents' home, I feel like teaching their kids. I say, "What are you doing?" Sometimes I'm like, even me, I would say, "What are you doing there?" Right? It's like, "How are you?" But it's amazing how some parents, right? They are very much intentional about it, right? They will speak the English or the French or whatever, but then also piggyback to either Mandingo or whatever Mende or whatever tribes in these countries. To your point, Mel, Kisi. But I think parents that are doing that, kudos to them. But parents that are go ahead.
And I know we've talked about this in the past. That's for your child to be passed for cultural teaching values, everything to be passed on from generation to generation. That's
Mhm.
another form of generational wealth by itself that people don't really talk about. Like that's a generational wealth by itself. That culture can be passed down. I mean, pros and cons. Every culture has pros and cons to it, but being
Mhm.
able just to pass that thing down, that baton of knowing the language fluently, understanding it, X, Y, and Z, from
Mhm.
generations to generations to generation. As a
Mhm.
parent, that's another form of culture, of generational culture, generational wealth that we don't even think about if you really look
Okay.
at it from a
Yeah, let's
lens.
take let's stick to the language piece a little bit then, because I think it is very important in this conversation with kids though. How does assimilation then plays into this? Right, you come to America. A lot of the Hispanics, right? Sometimes you go into Hispanic, it seems like like Hispanic is like like the second language or whatever, or Spanish is like a second language in this country. But now you know what I mean, and things like that. But there's still an English speaking country, right? But if you want to keep your local dialect or your language or whatever, how do you balance that with assimilation? May I let you take this one? How do you balance that? Because yeah, right, they expect you to assimilate to, especially a kid coming here young, right? Is that because that assimilation piece is very important. You don't want to get bullied. You don't want to, things whatever. That assimilation point is very, very important. But how do you balance that?
If I think is something that we need to start from the early age. We just said kids coming here at an early age. Some of our children coming, they don't even know their dialect from Liberia from the get go, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't even speak their dialect just from Liberia between the age of 0 to 10, 11 Liberia. So now, something I don't want us missing tonight too. The challenge to that is maybe some of these parents can speak their dialect, but some of them are not written. They don't know the written piece of it. So if you find it hard to teach somebody something that is not written, or you can write down to be like, oh yes, the word. Like I speak Kram. My mom is Kunamo from Grand. My dad is Chien man from Grand as well. I can
Mm-hmm.
speak both of those dialects. The way I learned it from a very early age. My mom and
Yeah.
dad could speak it. My grandmother taught me these things when we're in exile. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us, when we're coming around, we have our older siblings that could speak it. So we're able to learn it. But if you ask me to write it down, I can't because it's not there. So teaching kids, that's what make it challenging for some of us parents. Now, assimilating, yes, it's hard to do when you migrate into a new culture. You want to focus on learning that culture, and also you want to focus on the kids just understanding how things are, knowing that they're living from a different place where they left all of their friends because they're young people, right? They might not find it easier like us adults would do
Mm-hmm.
and be like, you know what, this guy can speak better. Let me know the American culture. Let me kind of hang out with him more. Kids don't know how to do that. Now, as parents, this is when you play that your role, right? Yo, my child, we are in this culture. I don't want you forgetting where you're from. Learn the American culture from the way you go to school. We'll teach you with the school piece, but we'll also be teaching you home of our culture as well. We're not going to
Mhm.
put a lot of it into you, but bit by bit, right? Learning this dialect. This is what this means. When I said this one, this is what it means. Kid
Mhm.
at an early age, between age 5 and I would say 12, they
Mhm.
can learn any language you teach them quicker than when they are older.
Yep.
Because at that level, they can be very fluent. Once you teach them and you keep on talking to them over and over, they grab onto it better than when they are older. When they are older, they find it harder to learn. So I think at an early age is a place to start. They can learn multiple language at that age
Yep.
without even disturbing them. So I think we really don't need to play a lot of emphasis on them learning the American culture. They will eventually get there, right? The fact that they are going to school, the fact that they are interacting with most of their friends in school, they are Americans, and the Americans speak American English.
Okay.
Obviously, they're gonna learn as they go over time. But you don't want to just neglect where you're from as well, right? If you want to
Okay.
be intentional about it.
Okay. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing raising children in a culture different from your own. How do you navigate that? Are you one of those parents? If you are a parent or thinking about being a parent, how are you going to be teaching your kids your local dialect or your local language? Or are you going to be intentional maybe every 6 months or 3 months, or maybe if we are December, right, as we call it in Liberia, right, taking them back home to try to experience your culture, right? Maybe the Ghanaian culture, the Nigerian culture, or the Liberian culture? Are you one of those that take your kids back home, right, to experience that? So you can join the conversation tonight by calling our number 952-594-5154, putting a comment in the chat. But though, let's take to, I mean, yeah, we have stuck with the language piece for a little bit, but let's move away from that. For those I mean, they don't want to go to the language piece, winner, what other aspect of the culture can they teach their kids? Maybe the food, right? Maybe the food, or maybe maybe other tradition, right? Maybe the clothing, right? So what other aspect can kids learn from their parents?
I mean,
Besides
you
the
said
language.
it. I mean, you said food. I think after language comes food.
Hmm.
Cooking that traditional food in your home.
Hmm.
Again, creating a balance. I believe to everything there have to be a healthy balance. American food, your African food, your cultural food. Like I said, at the center that I work, these kids are bringing the Somali food to the center. I'm telling you, we
Yeah,
have
okay.
we have mac and cheese and other stuff there, but no, their families are bringing that in, and we are making it. They're giving us like the rundown of how to warm it up or what type of tea, yada
Hmm.
yada yada. Because again, they don't want them to lose that piece.
Hmm.
Because like Mel said, the American culture is right before you. You're gonna walk into it. You're gonna step back. It's all around you. You can't escape it. So those little things like food, dressing them in their I have a 2 year that wear a hijab. She wears a hijab. She's two.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because they don't want her to lose that. All her other friends don't have some on, but she's two. They were like, nope. And she knows how to put it on. So all of those things like food, clothing, everything, those are all ways that parents can teach their kids like this is our culture, this is what we do. Yes, you go to school, yes, your friend wear jeans, but in our culture we wear this, and that's okay.
Okay.
Creating a healthy balance.
Mel, though, if you are doing that with your kids and they go to school, maybe their friends mark them, bully them, and things like that. As a parent, how will you support your kids in that situation? Because these things happens, right? It's like, these things happens.
Kidding.
They have a reality. If you try to immerse your kids in your culture and then they go to school, right, also trying to navigate this American culture or whatever it is, right? How do you support them when they are bullied or they are laughed at and stuff like that? As a parent, how will you do that? Or
First,
what should parents
first,
do in that situation?
first of all, people that bully people, I'll answer your question. But kids or people that bully people overall, these are people that don't know anything. So that's
Yeah.
first. That's where I'm going to start from with my child. If you're
Mm-hmm.
being bullied, just know that the person that bullying you, they are intimidated by you. They don't
Bingo.
understand you. First of all, you. There are certain things they don't understand. That's why they're bullying you. But I understand this. But the way to avoid your kids being exposed to bully, for my end, is right. We kind of spoke of assimilating, right?
Mm-hmm.
If going to school, I don't think if my child eating some type of food, our food from Liberia, or Africa, somebody will bully you. That's your food, right? Uh, but if it comes to dressing, right, I will try to incorporate them into the American style because this is where we are. Dress like an American. Wear the same things they wear back home when kids going to school to wear uniform. And
Mm-hmm.
and I believe the reason behind that is in Africa. The reason there are a lot of reasons behind that. One of the key reasons is to kind of avoid, people that have money showing up and people that don't have money. People that have money will
Mhm.
dress their kids will dress better, but people that don't have money, their kids will kind of wear something and they will not feel well to learn. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why Liberia encouraged the uniform thing. But now in America, you can buy your kids clothes if you're working, right? So understand what they're using the dress according to weather. So dress your kids in that manner. Dress them warm or during winter time. Dress them, you know, according to the weather, right? According to the way Americans do things. That way, eventually they can kind of incorporate themselves into the American culture. However, when we speak of teaching them your culture, it's not just limited to food, like you guys mentioned. It's just those are key things, or
Mm-hmm.
language. Those are key things. But also your cultural holidays or celebrations.
Mhm.
What are
Mm-hmm.
those things that we celebrate? We identify as Liberian, right? Make sure they understand that. Teach them those things and go to these things as we got it, right? Take your kids there. If you're not taking them there, make sure they understand what you are celebrating. We celebrate Christmas, we celebrate New Year, and other things in Liberia like flat day, these birthdays, right? Make sure that are celebrating in Liberia. Liberia's Independence Day, which is unique to Liberia. Make sure your kids understand that, right? And that's how eventually you can kind of incorporate them into the Liberian culture and making sure they are living that in America, but also understanding that my dad or my mom is from this place and this is how they do it. On so and so day is Liberia's Independence Day, and this is what we do on that day. Don't
Okay.
miss that piece. So these are the little things you can do to help them, you know, you not forget their place of origin.
Okay. Window, I will stick to that point a little bit, but I will flip it around, right? Where if in a situation where in kids are your kids are reluctant and the parents and a lot of kids are, become reluctant to even try to identify with I mean with your culture or their parents' culture. Because they feel like, hey man, that's yours, that is you, right? I don't want to be identified with that, my American. How do you balance that, right? How do you balance that reluctance? Do you try to instill making sure that they learn about your culture, even though they are reluctant, they don't want to do it? How will you handle that? How should
I
parents
mean,
handle
first
that?
of all, when a child is rebellious or reluctant to learn, I think the parents are not showing that physical representation. Let's
Mm,
start there. So
yeah, okay. Yeah.
if you're telling me to wear African clothes, but I never see my mom wearing it, how likely I'm gonna wear that?
Okay. Great point.
Right?
Great point.
That's a point. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes too, parents do wear the African clothes, and you're right. Where the kids are like, oh, I don't want to wear that one. That's you. That's not me. As a parent, for me, I don't have any kids. My nieces, their parents incorporate their culture and everything. We
Mm-hmm.
encourage them, but you can't force nobody, right? You can't shove them in the clothes, yada 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 yada. As a parent, you can't shove that in the kids, but it will be encouraged repeatedly all the time until one day it will click. So I would just say, like, just keep trying as a parent. But if you are not showing that physical appearance, that child is not seeing you to be able to mimic it or intimidate. I mean, copy what you're doing.
Mhm.
That might be a reason why they might be like, I'm not doing it. My mom don't even do it. So why am I gonna you and you hear a lot of kids will say that. My mom
Yeah.
don't even speak the language. Why am I gotta speak it? My mom don't even wear that clothes in the house. She don't even cook that food. Why I gotta they will tell you that. So
Okay.
again, back to parents being the first foundation for everything. What you show is what they're gonna take.
Okay. Mel, let me come back to the food aspect a little bit, right? Should immigrant parents, I mean, African parents or wherever, or Caribbean, teach their kids how to not only like to eat the food, right? Because I mean, some like even like some African parents, man, they cook that thing every day in their house, where there's nothing, there's no variety, there's no American, right? It's just that if they say Nigerian food is a Nigerian food 24/7, is a Liberian food 24/7. But besides you teaching your kids to eat that, you also teach them how to prepare it,
Yes.
you know, for the future down the line. Okay, elaborate more, say more to that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't just say I'm going to prepare the food for you and have it every time and not show them how to do it.
Okay.
Especially for our culture, the females, right? You want to teach them how to prepare. Also,
Mm,
kind of include the boys too as well. Um,
Thank you.
the
Mhm.
thing is though, if
mm,
you as parents, you don't want to say I want us to have our African foods X amount of days and you keep preparing it, right? You want to show the kids how to prepare it. Take them to the grocery store, buy those things. When you're cooking, start it from an early age, my brother. Let the child come around and watch you cook, and then sometimes just encourage the child to do it themselves, right? That's how you help them to even now they'll start creating that likeness for it. In as much as you taking them to the store, you bringing it home, you cleaning it, all of that. Make sure they see the process and what is being put into it, not just have it finished, then they come and have it, right? And that's why a lot of us losing. A
but
lot
yeah,
of
I mean,
our
you
our
describing
our
something.
I
brothers and
learned how to
sisters
make fufu at 8
You
can't
years old
even
describe
because
cook
my
our
grandmother.
food.
no,
You
but you
know,
describing something. You describing something that don't exist in most African immigrants' home, right? They know how to prepare the food, but I don't see them teaching these
That's
kids. I don't teach them teaching the kids,
which
right?
which
It's like,
I'm saying they should, they should,
yeah,
they should.
okay,
That's something they should forget about. They
okay, let's
our
like,
parents don't get patient, AB, because let me tell
mm,
you, they will
mm,
tell you to go put the rest in the pot. You washing the rest away, give me the rest, give me the rest. You're washing the food. And you understand?
yeah,
They take the rest for you.
okay.
The
So,
child's like, well, there it goes.
so you think the parents should be intentional about it, right?
And
It's like,
get
hey,
small patient,
come and
just
learn it,
small
as Mel was
patient.
saying, come and learn it.
Yeah, just a little bit of, because I mean, if you're teaching somebody for the first time, they're not
Mhm.
gonna be perfect. They're
Okay.
not gonna wash the rest maybe 3 times till you see the water clear for you. They may not, but you can coach them slowly and eventually they'll come around. But our
Okay.
parents, I'm telling you, my grandma used to be yelling, hurry up, and so I got started. I said, okay, I don't want to learn again. And then
So
one
the
day I needed to make it. She wasn't there, and I made it. How it
So
came
does
out, it
that
keeps.
so I mean so a situation like that where in that the parents are not patient, does it kind of do you think it discourages the kids,
Yes, it does.
from
It really
learning,
does.
from learning that? Okay.
Yes, it does.
So
Like
so how
imagine.
can parents balance that then, right? Because I mean to prepare some of these food is hard, right? How can that balance? How can they, because sometimes if a child has interest in something, right, they will put in the effort, but sometimes if they're not putting the effort, right, that frustration might come in. But where do you
Well,
draw
I
that
think
line?
one from a social work standpoint, something
Mm-hmm,
in the lens. If you want to get kids, always do something that they're interested in. So if your child got a favorite soup, let's say they like cassawali, they say, okay, honey, since this is your favorite soup, help me cook it, right? Because this is the soup they like,
That's a
right?
good, yeah,
So
that's a
you want
good
to meet them at their level, and at their level. That's what I do as a provider. Always
okay.
meet my kids as at their level. Because
Mm-hmm,
if you wanted to learn, come to their level. When you hear,
mm-hmm,
you will not catch it. But when you go down to their age and their level, if they like pepper soup, be like, okay, you like pepper soup, let me show you how you cook a pepper soup. You like okra sauce, honey? Okay, let me show you how to cook it. You know what I mean? Because that's what
mm-hmm.
they like. They will be interested. But if you're cooking soup like palm butter and they don't care for it, yeah, they'll be like, oh my God, I don't want to learn this soup. Anything that they like, let them learn it with you. Then they'll be more interested and want to partake and want to be hands on and everything.
Okay, I mean that's a good one. But should the immigrant community, as a community, should the immigrant community, should we have a culinary school or however you call it, right?
That would be
Like,
nice.
let's a cooking school to teach these kids that are coming up male. I'll let you take that first, right? Should they have a culinary? Because sometimes, as you said, right, it's like you know these are great food, but I mean, they are only prepared in a home, right? You don't see a lot of you do see East African restaurants, but sometimes you don't see a lot of West African restaurants, right? Should we be teaching our kids, right? Maybe open a special school, whether you call it culinary school or whatever, to teach these kids how to prepare their food. Should that be an option in our communities,
And
especially the
that's a
African
great,
community?
it's a great point. You know, we have great food in West Africa, specifically Liberia, right? But
Hmm.
we are poor at marketing our food, right? My
Hmm.
brother, I work with a bunch of the Caucasian guys, Indians, and sometimes, sometimes they be like, "Mel, where you want to take us to? Let's eat." I take them to an African store in Brooklyn Center called Oga Madam, right? And when I bring in them, I call the lady and be like, reduce your spice a little bit. Just make sure,
Hmm.
yes. And these guys, when we go to eat their food, they be there. How come we don't know this? Where is it? Especially the cassava leaf or the
Hmm.
pepper soup. My
Yeah,
brother, when you guys have our food, and
yeah.
guess what? Every time we are work on Friday, they won't go over there for us to eat.
Mm.
You, so we are poor at marketing our food. We got good food.
Mm.
We have one of the best food in the world. Now
Mm.
people go to
Yes.
these Chinese restaurant and eat. Not to say the food there not good. They got good food, but
Mm.
because these people know how to market their food, we don't know that. We
Yeah.
don't know that. We don't do a good job at doing that, right? If
Hmm.
somebody knows how to cook, they just learn it one way or the other and not even take into account how much of ingredients that you put in it, the amount of salt, the amount of, so those things are not measured. But people that can cook, they can put a whole list together and be like, put this X amount of stuff in it, do the X
Yeah.
amount, and these people can write a book for culinary schooling.
Recipe.
It's,
Yep.
yeah, and it'll be very good. Yeah, keyword recipe. It'll be a great thing to do because we have good food. Now we are not exposing to the outside world, but just to us. The very few people that eat our food, my brother, every day they want to have it. There's a
Mm.
place in Brooklyn Park. If you guys might know a value food, sometimes I go there and see different nationalities standing in
Yep.
line buying our food only because they have discovered it, and just few of them. So we need to do a better job on putting our food out there for the outside world to see and try and build somewhere decent. And I think if we can kind of reduce our spice, because that's one of the things they kind of they
Well,
kind of try to run away from.
you can have option though, right? You can have options, right?
Mhm.
You can have like if you go to maybe like if you go to Buffalo Wild Wings where they have light, mild,
Mhm.
or
Hot.
whatever. They have the different, yeah, they have the different options. So that could be an option where in a way, in me as we stick to the food conversation, that could be an option. But man, some of these kids are growing up, right? They love the spice, right? Once they get used to it, something that they eat spice. I mean, they eat spice more than their parents, but hey, but that's a whole nother topic. But I think, right? But who should lead when though? Who should lead that initiative, such an initiative? Let's assume, you know what, let's if we are trying to teach these kids to preserve the cultural aspect of the food, who should lead that initiative to say maybe they open a culinary school or that maybe as Mel said, a cookbook, right? Prepare it for it ain't gotta be only Liberian cookbook, it can be Ivorian cookbook, it can be Nigerian cookbook. Because these kids, they might the one of the mistake I think we make so much a lot of time in our culture, right? I think we have talked about it here, trying to balance, live between two worlds, right? We as parents, we in Africa or wherever versus America. But these kids, most of them are going to live their entire life here. They're not going to battle with,
Right.
I mean, wherever we're coming from. But how can we make sure they preserve that culture here in terms of the food? I mean, not only the language, but mainly the food, because I mean, that that continues, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Who should lead that initiative? I guess that's the point I was trying to get at.
I mean,
Who in the community, who are various communities should be taking those initiatives to do that.
we have community leaders. I think they have organizations out here. Is it the Liberian something group? I'm not sure. But those are kind
OLM,
of, huh? LMFAO. Is that what
OLM, Organization of Liberia.
OLM? Sorry, my DAC, I've been saying it wrong. But those are organizations that are like that are here, that are grounded. I feel like should be able to, like, if people in a group have vision, like Mel, that was a really great point. That would be something like that. Those kind of groups can put awareness out there for it, and people will come and sign up and partake. But I don't know.
Okay. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing raising children in a different culture, raising children in a culture that's different from your own. How's that experience like? Are you one of those parents that teaching your kids how to not only to eat the egusi soup or maybe to prepare it, or the cassava
Please.
leaf or the edibles or whatever food, right, that you used to back home, right? How are you raising your children in this culture, right? In this American culture, wherever in the diaspora you find yourself, how you balancing those two cultures, right? Where you live today and where you're coming from and raising your children. Are you trying to make sure, hey man, don't bother with where I'm coming from. Just focus here because this is where I think you're gonna live your life. So you can contribute to the conversation by calling our number 817-600 no 952-594-5154, or you can put a comment in the chat. But Mel, there's a 1 hour show. First of all, guys, you know what I mean? It's a great discussion here. There is something, these are discussions we should be having, right? And that's what we try to do here in Osaka Park here, because this is where we live. We live in this country. We need to make sure that we are, discussing these things so our kids can know it, right? At the point Mel brought and Winner you brought as well. The cookbook thing, I think is a good idea, right? I think that you have a Liberian cookbook, that you have
I
a
need to
Nigerian
learn into
cookbook,
Wagi, y'all.
you know, that you have things like that. But Mel, man, I will go to you, right? What's the one food you will wish, right, from your culture, that your children should carry on for generation? What's the one food?
Man, there are plenty, man. Do you
All
put me
right,
in the same spot again?
I can
The
choose
last
one.
time, the last time I said, but here's the thing: the Liberian dish,
That you
my
want your
favorite
children,
Liberian,
right? Not only that you want your
but
children, you pass it from you to your children. Oh,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
my favorite Liberian dish, all
Mm-hmm,
time Liberian dish is chuck rice and gravy with some fish in it, and just
mm-hmm,
not just fish but some meat in it, dude. If
mm-hmm,
that thing is well cooked
mm-hmm,
and well seasoned, that's
mm-hmm.
the best Liberian dish for me. I hope my kids can learn how to prepare that,
Yeah.
and just keep on carrying that so we don't lose it, man. Man,
Mm.
that dish is delicious.
Okay.
I brought one of my friends home one time, and they had it. That time my sisters and I were living together, and
Yeah.
my sister can put it down too, right? She cooked that chuck rice and gravy. You still don't beat this. I can kind of tell
Yeah.
them to cook that and to cook other dishes. The
Mm-hmm.
dude had that chuck rice and gravy. He was like, "How come? How come I never had this thing? It's so good." And literally every time, like every weekend, they do will be asking me for a meal. Can you guys please make me that? I will come. I'll get the money for your sister to make it for me. So I mean, that's that's my best dish of all time, and I can
Mm-hmm.
eat that every day, 7 days of the week, maybe
Mm-hmm.
4 weeks in a month, and be okay having it every time. So yeah, I hope my kids
Okay.
can kind of learn those not those, but that dish, and learn how to prepare it and carry along.
Okay. Wayne, what's yours? What's the one you want to pass on? I know you say you don't
uh,
have kids yet, but when you do finally have kids, what's the one you want to pass on to them? What's the one dish from your culture that you want to pass on to your
I mean,
kids?
you all know Bassa people in their known food is pepper soup and fufu, or
Say
the
Dumba.
pepper
No, no,
soup
not
and
fufu.
deeper
Not
or the
Dumba.
domba.
And they do
Yeah,
do,
we
and they do.
specialize in that. But like teaching my kids how to make the real Bassa pepper soup. The dead water soup, not just the one where they put the extra bell pepper and make it heavy on the bottom with that gray. No, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean like the real one with the clear water with the what they can call the thing the doodle on the side with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pass over.
Straight like that.
That's a
Yeah. The
good one.
real
Uh,
the cutthroat ones. Yes.
That's
okay.
a good
Yeah, but
Abby,
folks,
what about you? What you want to teach Abby?
I mean, that's a thing. That's a great question, right? I'm a proud-minded person, right? So it's like cassava leaf is something like, and my kids already love it. But in all honesty, I don't know how to cook. That's my greatest weakness. But I hope my kids can, learn because they love cassava already, right? That's
Mhm.
our favorite. That's our favorite dish, and so it's one of the. I Mel, just like you, man, I can eat cassava 24/7, right? Because
It is a good
especially,
soup.
but that's one of the hardest Liberian dish to prepare.
Mhm.
Very, very hard. But guess what? Though? Even let's say, Mel, I'm glad that you brought that point. For those that live in Broken Park or those that live in Minnesota, that value food or how you call or what else are folks go there, man, they be ordering African Americans be ordering cassava, they be wondering as
Mhm.
oh whoa, and they love the cassava leaf, right? They be talking about it. So I said, man, what you know about cassava leaf? But I think this I think we should pass on to our kids. And my kids already love. I mean, my kids already love cassava leaf, right? They I hope my thing, and that's it, and that's the segue. We should come to it. I hope I can take my kids back home one day so my sister can prepare it for them. Man, I think
It's a
she's the best.
different time.
I think she's the best cook in the world, right? Like, when it comes to that, yeah. I think I hope I can take my kids there so she can prepare it for them because I think it will be off the hook. But Mel, do you think, or will you, like to take your kids back home to learn about maybe not only a special food, but different aspect of your culture?
Absolutely,
Parents, should
absolutely.
parents do that? Should parents take that, do that often?
I think I can speak for myself, but I think it's a good
Mm-hmm,
thing, right? I think it's
mm-hmm,
a good thing for any parent to do for their kids.
mm-hmm,
It'll be an eye opener for them. It'll be an exposure to them just to understand, seeing things. Seeing is believing. I've
mm-hmm,
seen a video of a guy, taking his, I think 15 or 16, 15, 16, between the age of 15 and 17, they're two, a boy and
mm-hmm,
a girl. He took them back home and they just could not believe things they're seeing, right? They're like,
mm-hmm.
look at, oh my God, look at these trees. They went to the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. I want to believe they were living in Lackland State in America. When they
Yeah.
went to the Atlantic Ocean, they were actually amazed. You could see the amazement in their face. And I believe he took them somewhere in Grand Cape Mountain, that resort that is in
Mm-hmm,
isolation. They
mm-hmm,
saw all of these things, and these kids, they actually spoke of that. You should bring us here every time. And these are things, these are successful stories I think we should share with our kids, and
mm-hmm,
make sure they understand that. Yet these were kids that were born in the US of A, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Live out of their life. The first time going to Liberia, they fall in love with Liberia, and they love it. And I think it might not be true for every kid,
mm-hmm.
but it's a good thing to do. I personally would love to carry my kids back home. That's something I'm working on eventually. Once Zori reached that age of traveling, we all will get on that plane, the three of us, and go to Liberia. Just make sure. I'm not even gonna say I'm stopping in Monrovia. I'll take them to my father's town,
Mm-hmm.
and be like,
Mm-hmm.
this is where your grandfather is from. He's right
Okay.
here. And basically just show them that place. Cause what it does, it makes them believe, it makes them to understand, oh, this is where my dad is from.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm blessed to even be born in the US of A. These are things I would tell them, right? Looking at other kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes them to kind of appreciate life more and even wanting to do something back home. A lot of kids, that's what they do. So I would love to do that, and I would encourage every parent to do likewise.
Okay. When should
I
parents,
agree.
yeah, should parents, right? I mean, not you yet, but should parents take their, kids back home regularly? And what's the benefit of that?
I mean, Mel said it, giving them that perspective. I think
Mm-hmm.
perspective is matters as kids. And it also give you the lens, it broaden your horizon, right? Because in
Mm-hmm.
America, you have this one way of thinking, you're so narrow, so like one-sided. So
Mm-hmm.
traveling, taking them back home, like Mel is saying, take them to the school that you grew up, the house, and they're able to
Mm-hmm.
see how other kids are living, X, Y, and Z. It give them like a different perspective. And like you said, make them a little bit more appreciative of certain things that they take for granted,
Mm-hmm.
right? And stuff like that. But I really do agree that parents should take their kids back home. Um, I mean, some people take them frequently. If you have the money and the funds, absolutely. If you
Mm-hmm.
have like safety on ground, please do that. I know my sister took my nieces back like a couple years, and they had a ball. Every day they want to go back to Liberia. They want to go. But I think as parents, you should teach them that part and let them know where you come from because that's who you are. Always be proud of that. Always, no matter the good, the bad. 14, 12 years, Civil War, child still. I mean, be proud of that.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not only, I mean, it's like, here, right? It's like, it's not, I know, like, we are Liberians on here, but, we reach different audience, right? Nigerians,
Mhm.
Ghanaians, and folks from, I mean, East Africa as well, right? But hey, I think where other cultures or other folks really do it well, I think, I mean, the other folks, especially Liberians. Ghanaians, right? That's a tradition for them. I think
Yeah.
I've heard that's a tradition for them. They're not only going there by themselves, right? They are taking their kids. Nigerians are
Mhm.
taking their kids with them, and some of them will even go as far as sometimes taking their kids there to spend a little bit of time, right? Maybe
Mhm.
to experience the educational system, or
Yep.
maybe spend a whole summer there. Mel, do you think that's a great idea, or just the visiting piece is enough? Maybe 2 weeks visit or 1 month visit, but taking them, well, in a trying to maybe like, deeply immerse them into that into your culture, wherein that they should maybe go to school there and see how things are. Maybe spend a whole summer, 4 months there.
It definitely is a great idea, and significantly just make them, understand where you're from, and appreciate life, like we said. So it ties into the question I just answered. So if
Mhm,
you have the means, you have people out there that you can trust with your kids.
mhm,
I would say do it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's where you're from, right? Sometimes the challenges people face too will be the safety issue, right?
mhm,
Mhm.
These are things, but if you actually have people to take care of the kids there, there's something you can do. Even once let them go to school there 1 or 2, yeah, if they're cool, I would do that with my kids. They will come back here and do better. And I think it's something that we shouldn't neglect from our kids. Let's try to encourage them to understand where they are from, and doing it requires that piece. Not just teaching them here, like we say, at an early age, and teaching them your culture. It's seeing is believing, right? When they see it,
mhm,
things you
mhm,
teach them over time, and they just see it actualizing in front of them, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, this is what my dad or my mom was telling me about. Now I've seen it, and yes, I'll hold on to that." And that will go a long way with them, and they will help teach their kids that too. And that's how you keep your culture going. That's how you keep that generational piece going, right?
Yep.
So Abe, to answer your question, absolutely, it's important.
okay. Well, folks, we are going 1 hour into this, so we'll try to wrap things up here, right? We've been discussing raising children in a culture different from your own, right? Is that we are immigrants in this country. Most of us, the majority of us have kids. How are we raising them here? Are we teaching them our culture, our language, our food, our dress code? Are you one of those, man? Maybe every Sunday for church, you make those kids to wear those African gowns, or those, or those, or those African girls are every Friday, right? If you are Muslim, right? Let's say like you made them wear the hijab to go to the mosque. But as we wrap up here, I think raising children in the East America, right, or in the East United States is hard, right? And then what's up and then the other thing is now then you bring in the cultural angle where you are from a different culture. What is your advice as we wrap up here tonight, right? For parents that are, navigating and raising these children, right? Trying to make sure they preserve what are the Nigerian culture, the Ghanaian culture versus, the American culture where they are raising their kids. What's your advice to them tonight? What's the message you want to leave with them?
First of all, thank you all for tuning in tonight. It's always good to chop it up with y'all. But I think something I would love to leave with tonight is that culture, it is important.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're walking into one or we're coming from one, either way is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And to everything in life, there has to be a healthy balance. It's okay to assimilate to another culture, and it's okay to also practice and still embrace where you come from as well. And that's
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's very important, right? I know it's a challenge for a lot of parents. I mean, some parents, man, trying to hustle, do everything for their kids,
Yeah.
yeah, what I mean, they're working 2 jobs, trying to provide for their family at the same time, trying to, balance everything, things like that. But Mel, as we wrap up tonight, what's the message you want to leave with parents out there trying to, make sure they don't lose their kids, do not lose their cultural identity, the food, the language, the dress code, and everything else, as we wrap up tonight. What is the message you want to leave with parents? Raising kids in these United States where it's not easy, it's hard, but what's the
Yeah,
message tonight?
yeah, and that's the challenge. That's the challenge we face. Regardless
Mhm,
of where you
mhm,
are. Um, according to the U.S. Bureau, the
mhm,
census, right?
mhm,
27% of the U.S. population, 27% of the U.S. population,
mhm,
you know, is immigrants that migrate from non-white countries. Majority of that number is Africa.
mhm,
So that's a huge number, a
mhm,
huge number of Africans that make up the U.S. population, 27%. So
mhm,
what I would say here tonight, as we migrate here, and I know a lot of us, the key reason behind that is for opportunity, right?
mhm,
We don't
mhm,
have those in our home country,
mhm,
and that opportunity that drive us here, we find it. We should not forget our place of origin.
right,
Nowhere is like home. Nowhere is like where you are from originally. Yes,
sure.
we appreciate where we are, but let's continue to teach our upcoming generation, the younger kids, where we are
Mhm,
from, right? We know these things are challenging to
mhm,
do it, navigating the US culture and trying to incorporate where you're from, but put in effort to do it. Be intentional about it. The reason
okay,
we want to do that is we don't want to lose our identity. Because if we don't teach our kids, the kids that we are born in here, they know nothing about where we're from. I'll give you an example, my brother. Our African American brothers, a lot of them now understanding their origin, and you can tell how excited they are. A lot of them don't know where they're from. Now, knowing that a lot of these things is like, oh my God, I appreciate this. I want to know this. So we don't want our kids, we don't want to make that mistake with our kids. Let's try to take them back home as regularly as we could to
Okay.
teach them our culture, teach them our food, teach them our beliefs, our belief system. So then our identity is not going to be left somewhere in on the Atlantic Ocean. It still come here and it
Yeah.
goes back to Africa.
Okay.
Thank you everybody for just being here, and those that commented, thank you for participating. Thank you, Wayne, for keeping it down and locking it down tonight. And my big boy Abe, man, always my brother. I appreciate you. Like I said, you are one of the most committed young men I've ever seen. So keep on
No.
doing that, brother.
No, don't flatter me. But anyway, folks, good night. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for for a great discussion. To Win, to Mel, definitely, man. Raising children in this culture, right? It's not easy, but parents are doing it. Parents are holding it down. Parents are grinding. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight, folks. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Also, tomorrow we're going to be back here, right? Discussing this. Our tomorrow's our business segment. We're going to be discussing buying a new home, springing into that new home. So if you are looking to buy a new home, tune in tomorrow. We have a guest, that's going to be, educating us on. If you are looking to buy a home, man, I encourage you to tune in tomorrow. And then we're going to be back here Thursday. Now, Inner Circle Podcast is 4 days a week. We have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Wednesday is our business segment. Sunday is a social segment. I hear the social segment be lit. So hey, don't miss it.
No
And
rules.
exactly. I hear it be lit. But folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and you all have a good night.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Inner Circle Podcast, where hearts unite, sharing our truths, bringing